Neena Perez, and this is Straight Talk, no sugar added. Thank you so much for being here. This show is created to discuss life topics to challenge and transform your thinking. Today, I have someone I had the pleasure of meeting not too long ago. She is amazing. Her name is Nicole Hopkins, and she supports women over 30. Hello, going through metabolism issues to win the battle with their weight by eating and working out however they want without sabotaging results. Now, Nicole runs a health and wellness company called Empower Fitness, which she provides coaching programs to women and to corporate wellness solutions completely remote. So I loved speaking with you the other day, or was it last week, Nicole? And I really, I jive with you. I get your energy. You have a wonderful energy. And I love what you're doing. Of course, I'm a woman over 30, and that caught my attention. Like, it's a struggle. It's a struggle being a woman over 30 trying to lose weight. Like, you think you can do it like you did when you were 20, and that is not the case. So before we get into all of that, I really do want you to just introduce yourself for my audience so they know a little bit more about you.
Hey everyone. Like Neena had said, my name is Nicole Hopkins. I own a health and wellness coaching program. A little bit about why I actually got into coaching women is because, and this is the biggest question people ask me all the time: why do you help women, and why specifically women over 30? It's because there's not really anything out there for
Hmm.
us.
Hmm. Hmm.
There's so many things for teens and in the 20 somethings that you basically don't even need to eat anything and they lose weight. And when you get down to the nitty gritty, for women over 30 and plus, you're dealing with menopause, perimenopause, metabolisms, babies, all sorts of interesting stuff. So I've been able to use a lot of my like past experiences to really put together really great coaching program for mind, body, and soul, really to help women as a whole.
That's amazing. And I'd love to get into that if you're okay with that. Like, because you just mentioned what you've been through. So
Of
let's talk
course.
a little bit about that. I'd love to talk about and have my audience hear a little bit about what you have been through that has gotten you to this point. Because you're right, there's not too much out there for us, right? And
Hmm.
sometimes it takes like things that happen in our life that shifts us then to
Hmm.
to focus on these things. So I'd love to hear a little bit about what you have been through, what's gone on in your life that is, culminated to this point.
Well, growing up, I actually was never really into fitness. So that's the really surprising part. I always saw my mom go through every single 80s crash diet possible. I remember her when I was like a little girl eating, different weird diets, like, and then binging at the end of the day. This is something that
Yeah.
I can remember forever. And then those exercise videos, of course.
I remember those.
you know, but and you'd always see the same kind of results. In when I was in high school, um, many times I'd see myself a little bit bigger than the other girls, and I'd be told, from my mom and other people, like, hey, you know what you need to do? You just need to skip lunch, or you need to skip food. And I started really going into a situation where I wasn't having a healthy relationship towards food. And it
Mhm.
continued for a few years until I was about to graduate college, and I got into a really crappy situation with my car accident. And I was legit 2 months away from graduating with an engineering degree.
Wow.
And in this car accident, I broke my pelvis, my hip, I lacerated my liver, I lacerated my face,
Wow.
I messed up some of my female organs and my shoulder, and it really had to restructure my life because I was told originally I wouldn't be able to move properly. And at the time, I was riding horses, and I was told I wouldn't be able to ride a horse again.
Wow.
And and I was only 22 years old, and being told like something that young, when you're like not really married, you're barely out of college, you're just gonna get this new job and you can't walk.
Right.
It was something that was pretty horrifying for a long period of time, and it took a long time to get out of that situation where I would have to get up every day in pain and just force myself to do it, and realizing that like if I didn't do something, it was never going to get any better
Right.
either. So,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because you could have, Nicole, and many people probably wouldn't have faulted you for it, right? To just,
right,
you could have easily said, well, they said I'm not going to walk, so I'm not gonna. They said I'm not going to do this, so I'm just not gonna. And honestly, most people would have been like, oh, poor Nicole, right?
yeah,
Because sometimes that does happen, right? We become a victim of our circumstances, and circumstances can be rough, and that's a rough circumstance you went through.
right,
Right. And so when people love you and they want to support you, they don't realize that sometimes that can also be a hindrance if it's, oh, poor Nicole, right? Because something in you had to be different, Nicole. Something in you
right,
had to have some grit for you to say, nope, this is painful, but I'm going to get up and do it anyway. Right. Because that had to be a really hard time for you, not just physically, mentally as well. Because you're looking at the fact that you're leaving college, you were about to get your engineering degree, and now you're in a hospital bed, right? That
right.
has to mess with your head as well, right? Did you go through struggles with that?
I did, and at the time, my parents had to take care of me, and
Mhm.
that was even a more humbling thing,
Oh yeah,
especially
I'm
when you're
sure.
in college,
Mhm.
and you can barely walk to the bathroom. That's completely humbling. It was a situation I never even thought would ever happen in my entire
Right,
life.
right.
Um, but it was something that I remember when my physical therapist told me, he goes, you have a choice. Like you can either get off your butt, or we can work hard and figure this out, and you can do anything you need to do, but it's not gonna be a great thing, it's not gonna be easy, it's gonna be painful, but it is possible to move
Mm.
past this. So
Oh, thank goodness for that physical therapist.
yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
Thank goodness, because they do know, right? They've seen results of people who do it and people who don't do it,
right.
right? So I'm glad that they were there to encourage you in that. And I'm glad you were, it sounds weird to say this, but I'm glad you were young with it when this happened
Hmm.
too, because I think you have a little bit more energy, a little bit more, like, okay, I'm only 22 here. I can't stay here forever.
Right.
Something different happens is like, like I know children that are struggling with some physical
Hmm.
needs, but they're so resilient, they're just so resilient. And so even though people might be saying to them, oh, they can't walk, that child is still trying to get up and walk, and they will do it.
Right.
So because you're resilient, you're younger, you're stronger. And but that has to be really tough, with the liver. And you said your female, some of your female organs also got hurt during
Hmm.
the accident. And so did you spend a period of time not walking?
I did. I spent a couple of months not walking, and then I
Wow.
slowly took on with the Canadian crutches, and
Mm,
then lots of physical therapy. I remember my
yeah.
mom used to pay my brother to take me places,
Oh,
so I would go out.
right,
So,
right.
and we would just go to Target, and I would walk behind um, the cart, and just to go out. I was so
Yeah.
excited just to go to Target.
Yeah.
It was
Of course.
yeah.
I mean, and then, I mean, Target, first of all, because you get to go shopping, but also the fact that you're like getting out, you're moving, you're moving.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. And then you start to you shift. Like, did you struggle at all with some anxiety and depression after that?
I definitely did. There, by sitting in bed, everyone was feeding me a lot of comfort food because they felt
Yeah.
bad. Poor little Nicole,
Right, right.
their baby, of course. And then I started packing on the pounds pretty quickly. I'm only like 5'2", so I'm vertically challenged. I don't have a lot. I
Yeah,
can
me
pack
too.
on I
Five
can
two.
pack I can pack on the pounds pretty quickly. And then I started just really feeling like totally down on myself. Like I
Mm-hmm.
wasn't like
Mm-hmm.
feeling myself fully. Um, and I just knew, I was like, okay, once I be able to get to work, to to actually walk properly, I just need to like, build up my strength
Right.
for that.
What got you into the health and wellness piece of it all?
It's interesting because I love watching like old bodybuilders.
Mhm.
I just love watching them. I don't know what it's about. It's just amazing that how someone can like build their body to that level,
Yeah, it's incredible, right? When you see
right?
that, you're like, "Wow."
It's
Yeah.
it's pretty amazing. And even from a child, I had watched my dad get up at like 3 o'clock in the morning to work out. So I was like, you know what? There must be something behind this.
Mhm.
And I hired a trainer, I hired a coach. And it's something that like a lot of my friends were like, I can't even believe you're doing this. And I was like, I have to do this. Like
Right.
there is no other choice.
Right.
And I just fell in love with the entire process because I was like, wow, this is like a science experiment,
Mhm. Mhm.
like 90 days, then 6 months, and then a year. You're like, wow, look what I can do.
Right.
And it's just so amazing, like just to look back and be like, wow, like the different parts of your life and different parts of your body too, because they're not all they're all different, obviously, too.
Right. Right.
So it was just nice to be able to transform that way.
Have you since you started doing all of that, have you felt stronger? Like, is your body stronger now? Are you walking okay and all, or?
Yeah, I'm definitely way stronger now than I ever have,
Mhm.
and that's a while now. So it's one of those things that I feel like just because it's almost up to like almost at like 17 years ago.
Mhm.
I'm stronger now than I was. And I notice if I don't stay on my game or I gain a little bit extra fat or whatnot, then it'll certain things will creep up in my hip or my shoulder. But I'm like, okay,
Okay.
Nicole, I gotta, I gotta stop messing around.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. And it's good that you have that grit, right? So
Yeah,
you can get back on. You're like, okay, I'm off now, so something has to
right.
be done, right? And I know that with your coaching, you're helping people get to the root of their issues. Did you feel like that came because you dealt with the root of yours, and so you know the freedom of that, and you try to help people through that?
Definitely, because at the end of the day, it's more than just losing the weight.
Yeah,
If it was that simple, we all would be our goal weight completely.
that's
And
true.
it's one of those things, when I was sitting there in my bed, I was depressed as hell. Like I didn't like the way I looked in the mirror.
Mhm.
And when you actually sit down for a second and you understand why you're feeling that, why you're eating certain things, you're able to understand, you know, how to do certain things every day properly and better and efficiently as well. So I'm able to like when I bring in a coaching client, whatever her problem is, I can be like, okay, we're gonna start here. We figure out the ins and outs of her brain because
Yeah,
that's where it starts.
it's
It's
so
not
true.
it's not about any kind of magic pill or anything like that. It's about what's going on right here in your heart and your brain, and to see like how we can connect the two and make new efficient habits too. So
Yeah.
that's really my goal as a coach.
That's really great. Do you find that people are resistant to that part? Do you think that they're open to it? Like I feel like, sometimes we do want the magic pill, right? And I think most of
Right.
us have tried every magic pill on the
Yes.
market,
I know
sorry to
I
admit
have
that.
too.
It's like, oh, that's a new diet. Of course it
Oh
is.
yeah.
Yeah. So I'm wondering, when when people calling you and women, you mainly deal with women, right?
Yes, I deal with
Yeah.
women for the coaching, and then the corporate is both, but yeah, mainly
Okay.
women.
So when the women call, do you feel like they're resistant to that, to like really getting to the root of it, or are most of them pretty open to get into it?
Um, for most of the women that follow me and they look at my content, I really talk about
Okay.
habitual changes, so they understand that. And I'm very blunt about how I coach, how what I've been through as well. It's not something that happens overnight.
Right.
There are some people that will always want that quick fix overnight.
Hmm.
And that's not something I personally can give people. Like I always tell people if they need to lose a certain percentage
Oh,
of weight. Yeah. So most of the women are perfectly fine with it, but some of them obviously they're just jumping from one thing to the other. And that's the biggest thing I find, that you have to really just stick to something and make a full commitment to yourself.
yeah.
And when you hop on my coaching program, I'm giving my full commitment to them as well. because they're going to have
Right.
me in their back pocket 24 hours a day. Like I'm going to be there, like in their corner, rooting them on.
Yeah, that's good. And I think that's one of the challenging things too about being a coach, right? Is
Mhm.
is hoping that you get the client that actually is going to do the work,
Right.
right? Because it's one thing to be in therapy for 20 years or to
Right.
actually do what your therapist or coach or whatever is telling you to do. And that's probably the biggest challenge, right? Because you have a little bit of a hurdle. You're
Mhm.
dealing with the root, right?
Mhm.
And so, which is brilliant because most of us have a lot of roots that we need to be cutting off. And it is work. It is work, Nicole. You've been through
Right.
the work. You've been through the work. So you absolutely know. And I love that. I love that you have the experience that you have. I wish it would have never happened to you, but I love that you have
Mhm.
the experience because you can sympathize, you can empathize, but you can also say, hello, you also don't have many excuses. You got to get this done.
Right.
Right? So why not deal with younger people? Why, because that probably would have been a little easier than
Yeah.
dealing with us old fogies, right? So,
Yeah.
so why choose that? Because I think that it can be very rewarding, but it also can be very challenging, right? So why
Right.
choose the 30 and over, is it?
Yeah, 30 and over. For one, I'm 30 and over.
I know you
And
look so much younger. I
I
can't get
know.
over that.
But the biggest push in drive is, I totally, and I will take on people in their 20s if they really need a help. Like I've helped a couple of college girls really find themselves and find their confidence, and I love
Right,
doing that part.
right.
But my main focus is 30 over, because that's when women really need the help. That's when people are having families, they're giving up everything
Yeah,
for
yeah.
somebody else when they really should be taking a little time for themselves. And even throughout the years, watching my mom just giving and sacrificing so much of herself for my brother and myself and my dad, it's just, to me, it was a real no-brainer, like seeing everything she had put on the table. I
Mhm.
just felt like it was more connection that way. So
Yeah, that's great. And so how do you if you I mean, you don't have to take me through a coaching session, but how do you approach it? Do you start with like their weight loss goals or do you start with we're going to tackle this first? Or is it every like individual for everybody?
it's pretty individualized. Basically, I'm very big into actually understanding how they want their life to be
Oh, that's good.
in 6 months, in a
That's
year.
good. Okay.
How will you look? How will your relationship feel? Because yeah, what is 20 pounds really going to give you? Let's be honest here. Like
Right.
it's just a number. But like, just thinking about those new pair of jeans, like I really try to find out how much better their life's going to be. Are they going to be able to go for that new job? Are they going to be able to fit in that sexy dress? All these things are pretty individualized, obviously. A
Mhm.
lot of the women that come to me lately, they just want to have enough confidence in their suits to go for that big job
Right.
and go against those other men around
Mhm.
them,
Mhm. Yeah.
and show them that they're powerful. And I help them find, their power inside so they can be empowered in the world.
Right.
So,
Right. I love that approach too because you're doing it with the end goal in mind.
mhm,
And so if I think coaching and especially with like sensory is
mhm,
really like powerful. So like when you said, how would you feel? How are you
right,
going to look in that? That's really important, isn't it? Because if you can start to feel where you want to be, then you just work them backwards,
mhm,
right? As to, okay, so this is where we're starting, but this is what you want, right?
right.
So that's really powerful that you do it that way. I love that. Do you I mean, you must become family at that point with them,
Yeah.
right? Because let's be real, getting into root of things and losing weight is not an overnight journey. It is a long journey, right? It can be a long journey. Do you have programs that you take them through, like 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, like that, or you
I
just
I usually
individualize?
usually it's individualized. I usually recommend people to always start at 6 months. I do sometimes do 3 months, but I have noticed that the minimum is 6 months to really
Hmm.
like understand someone, their body, how they go about stuff. And then you don't have to hammer out stuff too soon, because then they'll actually learn the habits with the 6 months.
Yeah. Yeah.
But what I've noticed, most of my clients renew for a whole year, and by then they're able to like understand it, keep their goals, and they're able to keep the weight off too.
Yeah.
You
I was
know,
just going to
so
ask that next question, right?
yeah.
About like how hard it is. Because you're right. Well, first of all, I think we've all discovered that it takes 63 days to even develop a habit,
Hmm.
right? It's not 21, it's 63. It's three times the length. By the time you even get to the 63, you got to discount the first 21 because the first 21 you done messed up so many times.
It's
Right?
true. Yeah.
So it takes a minute. But the good thing is I love that you brought that up because the weight loss can be achievable. I've lost weight in my
Hmm.
life. I'm going to be 49 this year, and I realize how much harder it is now to
Hmm.
lose weight, even when I'm making the right choices. And so it gets frustrating, and
Hmm.
you get, you know, ticked and you get mad, like, how much more do I have to work out? And then I realize what you're saying is right. The scary part of people losing weight, I'm sure you've heard this a thousand
Hmm.
times, is keeping it off. And can I actually keep it off?
Right.
Right? It's that limiting belief of, can I actually keep this off? And I think that that has a big deal to do with self sabotage,
Hmm.
right?
It
What do
does.
you think about that?
I definitely agree. And I have people that ask this quite often, actually. And I ask them, I'm like, are you going to go into this program hoping you fail?
That's good.
Or like, I feel like a lot of the times, because I know I've thought about this before myself. So it's something I had to actually deal with. But actually going into your program fully open, being open to be coachable
That's good.
is key. Like, and being like, you know what, I'm Nicole, I'm just tell me what I need to do. Like, I'm completely taking the guesswork out for these ladies. They don't have to think about anything. They just need to cook the food.
Right.
So, so, and they just need to follow whatever I give them. So, um, and it's not something that's going to happen overnight.
Right.
But
Right.
yeah.
And yeah, that's so good. And it's really something that you have to go into your program knowing it's not going to be overnight. Do not call Nicole next week talking about you didn't lose your 25 pounds, because that's not going to happen. And I think that, I think women, especially when you're older, get disappointed faster when it comes to the weight loss thing
Hmm.
because it's so hard to do.
Right.
It's harder. It's not hard to do. It's harder
Hmm.
than when you were 21. When I was younger, I did Atkins. I lost 60 pounds. I gained 70. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
like, so it's this horrible yo-yo. And I think that defeated me I think it defeated me because it's been a struggle for a long time. And I know that most women that I speak to feel the same way. And I'm
Hmm.
very like wowed by how many women feel the same way. Right.
Right.
So when you do your program, and you're dealing with the individual, do you give them individualized meal plans as well? Or do you have like there was someone I was speaking to who's very strong about being a vegan,
Hmm.
and she's super healthy, so that, I mean, it's fantastic, that
Yeah.
works for her, it's super healthy. And I was sharing with her because she's adorable, and I was sharing with her, I said, veganism is great. I tried it in January. I almost killed myself. Like, I was
Yeah.
sick almost every day. And I went to my naturopath, and she goes, what are you doing? Who told you to be a vegan? Don't ever be a vegan. And she's like, your body type, your blood work, all of
Right.
that is not vegan. And I'm like, okay. And I had to stop. But I was trying. I really was. So are you a vegan, or do you have like one particular thing that you like, or
I
do you
actually
try to?
don't.
Mhm.
I'm actually working out an issue right now. I have a reflex disease, GERD.
Uh-huh.
So I've been like playing around with my diet right now because it seems to be like kicking its ugly head up. So I personally have just gone gluten free
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
because of that, because I don't want to be on all these reflex stuff. But on the other thing, I really like all sorts of food,
Yeah.
and I also believe in real big balance. I don't recommend my clients to be on meal plans because it's one of those things. Let's go back to Weight
I love
Watchers
that. I
and
love
all
that.
of those
Mhm.
things. Like when you go out with your friends, there's not going to be point systems anywhere. There's not going to be that meal plan that I gave you. I
Right.
do provide them if someone asks for an idea what to make. But really, the whole goal is to educate my clients in order to
That's good.
figure out what they need to eat and how often and how they feel about food too. Because it's
Hmm.
because like you're like how many times you're gonna want to pull out a macro calculator and calculate your macros? I know I don't want to do that,
Right,
and I
right,
don't
right.
expect my clients to do that either. That's completely crazy to me.
That's
So
good. So that basically what you're doing is actually teaching them a life skill they can keep taking with them.
that's correct. Yeah.
That's good. Because I have to tell you, Nicole, one of the most frustrating things, and I'm sure you already know this, is the amount of information that's out there drives you crazy because you honestly don't know which one to do. That's why I work with a naturopath and she has me on a specific um, a blood type,
Hmm.
for my food for my blood type. That's good for my blood type. And I've been feeling my inflammation going down and
Hmm.
stuff. So it's obviously working. But when I look at like all the stuff coming at me, I'm like, I
Hmm.
get overwhelmed. I really do. And I'm a
Right.
pretty educated woman and I
Yeah.
still get overwhelmed. And I'm just like, so your job is not easy, Nicole. Your job is not easy, but it is needed. It is
Yes.
needed because women do go through some stuff. And you mentioned really top things, like you said, menopause,
Right.
premenopause,
Hmm.
things like that. Which is where I'm at. I'm premenopausal, but that's hard when you start to get to that point, because
Hmm.
that's the women that now I'm friends with, right? They're all my
Right.
age.
Yeah.
And we talk about it and we're like, oh my gosh, what are we doing? What's happening? As we used to talk about going out and hanging out. Now we're talking about what premenopause medicine are you
I know, and it's so funny because I talk to my mom every once in a while. It's like, You guys didn't tell me anything about menopause or perimenopause. What part of the story did we miss?" She's like, "I
right.
thought you would figure it out," and I was like,
Yeah, once you start getting the hot flashes,
"Thanks,
oh
mom."
man. Yeah, exactly. Get those hot flashes, you're like, "Ooh, something's wrong. I'm getting an attitude problem."
Definitely.
That's amazing. So tell us a little bit about, maybe you can walk me through just a few minutes of what it's like for a client. So if I'm a client or somebody's calling you, what's your process
um,
for you to like onboard or get to know someone?
okay, so when a client actually signs up, obviously even before we sign up, I always have a lengthy conversation to make sure even we're a good fit.
That's
I
good.
always believe in a conversation because if I can't have a relationship with this person and they can't with me, then that's I always start with there.
That's good.
So I always want to make sure that that's a good fit. Once they start onboarding, I start them right then and there, the ground running, pretty much.
That's good.
I walk them through what kind of foods they like, they don't like, what they've tried in the past, what they don't like about certain foods, what they won't do for exercise, and really understand their daily habits already and how their family situation is too, so we can kind of like formulate a really great plan around that too. Because mind you, I don't have kids, so I want to know, like, okay, do they is it do we have to structure a diet plan around them running around the kids and
Mm,
around the office and then the husband and everything else, so to understand what they have to do on a regular basis. And then I would add them to my coaching program, which would then start teaching and implementing a few like coaching techniques to get them pumped for the upcoming week. We start very slow. We don't jump right into exercise. We're very big into like starting with new vegetables,
okay.
10,000 steps, and really taking ownership for our actions
That's
is
awesome.
really key when we start. And then by week 2 to 3, we start to kick into gear with more exercise and stuff like that. So
That's great. And I love that you started with saying, I got to get to know you first. And that's so good because that means you're intentional. You're
yeah.
intentional, right? As opposed to, here, sign up for my program and you don't even know who the person is. And that happens. It happens.
Yeah.
And I think that that's why some people get a little deflated, because they're just like, oh, I signed up for this program and I got nothing out of it. And that's not what you want, right? You want that personal
No,
connection with a coach. You have to have that. You have to. Now, every coach, I think, needs a coach. Do you have one?
I actually do. I have two coaches right
Good.
now. I have a fitness coach and I have a business coach. So I
That's
feel
amazing.
like I feel like people should always like invest in themselves. Just like I went
Yep.
to college. I feel
Right.
like they're more valuable than college.
Yeah. I do too, actually.
Yeah.
But I agree with you. I have several mentors and people that I look up to
Yeah.
too that help me move forward, a coach. And I think that's important, right? Because it keeps you moving forward too. And you don't get stuck in a monotony and a rut, right? You grow
Right.
well, which is great, right? Because everybody should see that as a beautiful thing because if you're growing, we grow.
Right.
Right? So that's like very helpful, you know? So I'm really proud of what you're doing and I'm excited to see what you're doing, as you keep moving forward and I follow you on LinkedIn. So it's nice to see what you're doing out there. Do you have
Mhm.
any like other things coming up that you are working on or like a,
Uh, right now I am updating my coaching program to add more like perimenopausal stuff
oh,
because
great.
I'm currently going through that myself.
It's fun, isn't it?
It's so much fun. Uh, and I'm always learning about new things. So that I'm adding into my coaching program because
That's
there's a
great.
lot of women that don't know anything about it. Let's be honest, we don't.
Yep. Yep.
It's okay though. And I've been doing a lot of things for the Leukemia Society
Oh,
as my
that's
mom has
great.
been diagnosed with cancer. So I've been
Oh,
doing a
I'm
lot
sorry.
of. Thank you. But it's one of those things like I felt like I could use some of my coaching to make extra money to help the cause as
Oh,
well.
wow,
So
that's
so I've
amazing.
been doing a lot of things like that lately.
Yeah, that's great. And that's fulfilling. That's really great.
Yeah, it definitely it really is. It feels so amazing to be able to like help my mom at the same time and be like, "Mom,
Yeah.
just heal and feel good and
Yeah.
I got your back, you know?"
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry she's going through that. It's always so tough. I'm sorry. Do you before I let you go though, I do want because I do have a lot of women and entrepreneurs and stuff that listen to this podcast.
Of
I
course.
would love for you to give us all of your handles and where your
Yeah.
program is because we need it.
Yes, I would love to reach out to them, even if they just want a conversation. I love talking to different women. That's how I get a lot of my ideas for my coaching programs too.
Yeah, that's
It's
wonderful.
from real women, like because
Yeah.
that's and listening. Um, the best route to really reach out to me is on Facebook or
Okay.
my email. You can just look up. It's under Nicole Renee Fit, NicoleReneeFitt.
Okay.
You can just friend me on Facebook or you can email me at Nicole at empowerfitnessct.com.
Okay.
So,
And so you're building out your coaching program now, and will that be all announced there too as well on your Facebook and all that?
yes, that's correct. Like right
Okay.
now, I have my regular one in there, but everyone that signs up is going to have the extra stuff in there. So
Okay.
it's gonna be
Great.
it's gonna be stellar. It's gonna be awesome.
Yeah, I know because your personality is already amazing. So I can imagine this is going to be wonderful and so needed, Nicole. I think
Yes,
I'm encouraging all these beautiful women listening to please reach out. And to your point too, you did help women under 30 as well.
of
So
course.
I feel like there's questions that you guys have for Nicole, even if you're not 30. Reach out to her because she can let you know whether or not you're fit or not, or what she can do, or maybe she could even give you some resources. So,
Yeah.
make sure that you reach out to Nicole. Make sure that you reach out to her Facebook page, and I'll make sure to link all of that information below on our show notes. So, is there anything else you'd like to share, Nicole, before we go?
Yeah, I'd just like to just share that anyone that's going through any kind of struggle, don't put too much pressure on yourself.
Oh, that's good.
Just don't
Yeah.
do too much pressure on yourself. Give yourself time, whatever goal you're doing,
Hmm.
and break it down in just small increments. That's been my biggest thing from day one. It's not looking at it like an avalanche.
Right.
Just really breaking it down. So
That's good, and that's encouraging too, because you do look at it sometimes like an avalanche. Sometimes I
yeah,
get so frustrated. I'm just like, forget it.
exactly.
And then I have to pull myself back, like, no, it's not forget it. You're not going to ruin everything now, but,
Right.
but, but it is frustrating when you're like working at it and you realize like this is harder than you think. You need support. You need support.
Exactly.
So thank you, Nicole, for being here. I appreciate you so, so much.
Well,
so
thank you so
much.
much for having me.
Yeah, I'm glad. I'm glad you're here. And guys, thank you so much for watching and for listening. Please make sure that you subscribe to our channel. Don't forget. And I'll make sure to link all of Nicole's information below so you do not miss a thing. Okay. Get yourself together, people. We got this. All right. This is Nina Perez, and this is Straight Talk. Until next time.